good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, the most important 90 minutes of your day. Hello, I'm Michael, the MC and Opportunity Ambassador for today's show. And today's show is one more in the series of the Artistry of Loving Relationships entitled, What's Your Happiness Score? We've got Anil Gupta with us. But before I introduce Anil, let's introduce my fellow host. Our first is Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator. Willow, our trauma consultant.
Hi, everyone.
And Dennis, our freedom facilitator.
Greetings and blessed love, beautiful people.
And of course, our very special guest, Mr. Anil Gupta, the love doctor. Hi, Anil.
Good to see you all. Hey, thank you for the introduction and the welcome and the ability and opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Well, it's really our pleasure to have you on board, and we really appreciate how easy it was to get in touch with you and to organize this thing. So, Anil, right off the bat, man, you've already got us all sky high about the opportunity to talk with you. But in putting this thing together, and this is actually a documentary that we're working on, is this idea of the artistry of loving relationships, and the idea of really kind of creating an alternative picture of what relationships could look like if people took a little bit more time and understanding when it came to identifying what are the valuable things about relationships that we could build upon rather than kind of accept what society has given to us. But with that said, does anybody want to start off with a question, or would you mind just kind of giving us your initial impression of what loving relationships are to you?
Really, a loving relationship is effortless. You don't have to pretend or do things. It's not transaction. Hey, if I do this for you, will you do this for me? It's just effortless. You be yourself, your partner be themselves, and you meet somewhere in the middle, and you get on really well. You can have totally opposite likes and dislikes. My wife's not funny. I'm very funny. She never likes when I say that. But we're chalk and cheese. I think it's oil and water. Americans use oil and water. I like doing things she doesn't like doing. She does stuff that I don't like doing, which is great. But people think that you have to do the same things everywhere. You don't have to do anything at any time. Just have the freedom to be yourself.
Awesome. Does anybody else want to take a question? I'll throw it around. I'm not hearing you.
I was muted.
I was muted too, and I was like, "Where's the button?
Where's the button?" So yeah, I like the freedom to be yourself. I think that's really exactly where we all should be. Gearing yourselves towards, maybe not necessarily, we can't all be there, at that place. Some people are still held back by programming and other things, but we can just adjust our direction in that direction and take a step in that direction, right?
Yeah, and it's progress. If you're constantly growing it. I mean, my relationship with my wife, and we're approaching our 32nd year of marriage. Now it's effortless, but it didn't used to be. We used to have fights, arguments, disagreements, but we were never given a manual. We were never taught how to navigate. So once you know certain basic tools and methodologies, you can avoid the big stuff. Once you avoid the big stuff, everything else becomes little and it's manageable. It's chunk size.
I'm really glad you said that, because as soon as the words came out of your mouth where it says loving relationships are effortless, my brain wanted to say absolutely not. It's not effortless, because I'm going on 10 years of marriage, and it has not been effortless. It's been a lot of effort. It's been a lot of hard work, and it's been a lot of commitment. But I do understand there is a certain point where once you do all of that and you've learned how to navigate through the conversations and you're really listening to your partner, it does feel like it becomes effortless. Like the solutions just come to you and you can talk about them and figure it out. So I'm really glad that you made that distinction. I like that.
Yeah, and so may I ask you a question? What do men want?
Love, happiness.
No,
I think to feel needed.
no. See, this is one of the problems.
What do men want, Anil?
I'll tell you on the next show.
Wait. What is this deal? What is it, like a repeat?
This is a different show.
Oh, okay.
No, this is a repeat. This is a different show. I'm sorry. It says, what is your... I'm sorry, I'm being playful. So
What is
men
your
want one
happiness?
thing.
Mm-hmm.
They only want one thing.
Sex?
Very good. This is what people say in my seminars. It's sex, and they want more sex.
That's not what I was thinking.
No, but what men want is one thing. They want to be respected. Okay? Once you disrespect a man, he will fall out of love with you. Women want love, men want respect. So you have to respect your man. Once you do that, he'll do anything for you. So
I
Will,
think you're right.
what do you mean you think I'm right?
She's
That just
she's
resonates with
considering
me.
it.
I'm the expert.
Well, just so you know, Dr. Gupta, we are autonomous individuals. We don't really look at experts in the way that other people like the top down, bottom up kind of situation. We're like, oh, you're an expert. Okay, let us consider your opinion. And then we may or may not agree with it.
I should have said I'm a guru then.
Same goes for gurus.
But it does resonate.
It's my
because
opinion. These are only my opinions. So I get
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
when I was offering the answer of to feel needed, it didn't quite sit right with me. I was like, that's not exactly what I wanted to say, but it's the closest thing I can get to it. And that what you said, it resonates just much more clearly with me. I'm like, that makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Of course, respect, in both sides of a relationship is really important, but I would say that probably is a very masculine need.
Yeah. So a man values respect above love, and a woman values love about respect normally. Okay. So Will, if you are asked to ask your partner, what can I do to make you feel more respected? Listen to what he says and do what he says. You'll be surprised how easy and simple his answer will be.
Nice.
So what do you think he would say?
I have no idea, but I have a feeling that conversation would be enlightening. And I think it would probably, maybe, and no, I'm always making assumptions, and I hate to do that because one of my biggest problems in relationships is making assumptions on what other people are going to say, how they're going to feel, how they're going to react, and then adjusting my behavior to either minimize that or do whatever I need to do to get the outcome that I want. And that's not very respectful of the other person. So I can see where I've dug myself into a hole in some arguments just out of that lack of understanding of what's needed here.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea what he would actually say, but I think that he would be very open and maybe a little surprised at the question and be like, oh, she's trying to figure out how to respect me, how I want to be respected. I think that would mean a lot to him. But again, I'm just assuming.
Again, it's a simple question. We don't need to overthink it. So for a man, if you say to him, I respect you, it's that simple. I appreciate you. I'm grateful to you. Thank you for making me feel safe. Good job. And physical pat. You did a great job. You're amazing. Okay, simple stuff like that. And obviously, the intimate stuff you can do privately. But as a man, that's all we want. Very simple stuff. good job. I'm proud of you. Well done. You're amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you. I respect you. I honor you. Very simple. So what do women want?
You already told us it was love, right?
Yeah. It's love. What is love for a woman? How do you feel loved? So if I asked you, what would make you feel loved? How would you answer that?
Understood, not judged.
See, we can never understand you. We can't. And you can't understand men. Yeah. But okay, so what would make you feel loved if you were heard? Yeah.
Ladies, you're going to have to respond.
I'm trying.
I'm looking at Willow. I'm like, I already responded. This is your turn.
Well, I feel like my term is too broad. Like, I was thinking like intimacy, but what is intimacy? Like,
Great. This is a really great question. You see, the thing is, when you have a deep level of communication, ask your partner, what does intimacy mean to you? You know, how can I serve you? What can I do for you? What else can I do for you? How else can I do this? And you get very specific. And if you serve your partner and they serve you, you'll never have problems. So normally for a woman, they want to be heard, they want to be listened to, they want men to be present, not distracted.
So you're saying we all want attention, right?
It's not that you want, it's just
I'm being
that
a
you
little
want to be heard.
facetious.
Yeah. You see, men think women want attention all the time, but they're totally wrong. It's not that you want it all the time, but when you want it, you want it.
I
And when he's with you, you want him to be present.
I find that for me, if I want attention and I don't get it, I want attention more. Like if I'm getting good quality attention in regular intervals, I want less attention. But if there is a lack of attention, then I'll want it more often. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, because your needs are not being met. You have an expectation that hasn't been met. And you know, you want to be heard. And if you're not heard, you want to be heard even more. Yeah, it's like having, if you really want some ice cream and you don't get it, you want it even more, you know?
So you want twice as much ice cream.
Yeah.
That actually correlates to an article I was reading about parenting children who are, what was the term? They are attached to sweets, basically, where it's been like kept out of their hands because they eat too much, so they're never allowed any, and how that actually makes things worse because it pushes the idea that you can't get candy until you behave. And they've had more results by offering proportional, regular portions of sweets with their dinner, like not enough to cover dinner, but enough to have a dessert. And the more that's offered, the less attached. There's a term that I'm missing that like.
Addicted.
It makes them more desperate when you take it away from them. So when you introduce it to them on a regular basis with normal intervals, it decreases that addiction and that desperation for it because it's something that you can have whenever you really want to.
Yeah, and it's the same with alcohol. You know, if you say to your kids, oh, absolutely no alcohol, no, 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 no. And then when they go outside, they're going to have more. So we would, I don't know if I'm going to get locked up for this, but we would, be open with alcohol in our house. And if they wanted to try, we'd let them try so that when they went out, it was no big thing. You know, it's better that they do things in the house than go outside and seek it. Yeah. So, and it's important that we keep an eye on kids because they're subject to so many different stimuli that we need to be aware of that because some of them can be very harmful.
That was something that we had a friend who not recently, probably like a year ago, came back from a trip to Greece. And he was talking about how it was really strange to see 16-year-olds out at midnight drinking and dancing by themselves on a date. And it's no big deal there because they know how to drink in moderation. They're also working off the alcohol by dancing around. They understand consent, and they've been playing this game for a couple years now. So it's not like, you know, they're all of a sudden 18 and now they're allowed to go on a date by themselves and they're allowed to drink alcohol and they're allowed to drive a car and they're allowed to do this, so they can just go batshit crazy on everything.
Yeah. And if you notice how the Greeks speak to their children, they speak to them as adults and with love. So, you know, there's no bad behavior. I mean, I can't say no bad behavior, but there's no incentive for bad behavior because the kids get the attention, they're treated very well, and they're brought up, even at like 10, 11, 12, they have some sort of openness and fairness around alcohol. So it's not a big thing. Whereas if you go to other areas where it's restricted, it becomes a big thing. And then people want that attention.
Yeah, I'm European and I was exposed to alcohol at a young age. I never drank a lot, but, you know, I remember my uncle or my father selling a car one time and me getting a glass of wine for it because everybody was celebrating. So it's like, oh, here's your glass of wine, you know, and it was never really a big deal for me as a teenager.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because that's something that Michael said about dogs in Mexico. And I don't want to compare dogs and children necessarily, but it is a comparison that just came to mind. But he said that the Mexican dogs are so well behaved, right? But they're not locked up in houses. They're not coddled. They're expected to act with respect to all humans, or there may be really bad negative consequences, right? So even the wild dogs, the homeless dogs, act with respect, and that's because they're not coddled. But in North America, a lot of the dogs are locked in a room or locked in a bathroom, and oh, you're misbehaving. Go to your crate. We're gonna close the door, and then the dog ends up misbehaving worse after that because it's, you know, it has all this energy.
And the same thing goes for dogs on the street, because a lot of dogs on the street here they're not friendly. You don't just walk up to a dog on the street unless it is starting to act friendly, because a lot of them are really aggressive because they've been put in situations where they have to fight to survive and they have to fight for their food. And I think that, like, the culture surrounding how we treat all beings, we need to look at it a little bit more, because there's good things and bad things that are going on, and people are just slapping a label on it and sending it on its way.
I can really appreciate the difference that you made between women and men and what their needs or perceived needs are. And I was wondering if we looked at love not as the romantic love that I think was the definition of, you know, what women longing for, that you gave an example. But if you would define or look at love for a moment just as that what is, as all there is. So if all there is love, so taking it as a different level, you know, divine, if you would like to see. So everything, even if it's seemingly, you know, hurtful, because that I feel is also part of love. But if you assume that all that is love, then going back to the beginning when you said, when you mentioned effortlessness, then I would feel then that is really effortlessness, because there's no effort needed to be in love, to be in that moment, to be in isness. And in order to being in the past or be in the future means to make an effort, because you have to remember, you know, what was and be tainted by that. So your experience, your present experience will be tainted by the past, or it will be, you know, in worry about what could be. And then that takes you away out of that effortness as well, because you would have to make, you perceive that you have to make an effort in order to reach somewhere where you perceive you have to reach, or you have to make an effort in order to deal with whatever, you know, pulls you down from the past. And so it is, instead of separating, you know, between women and men, I was wondering, well, like, if you look at love, is that what is it, the all-encompassing thing that we live in, and that our beingness right here and right now, then actually, you know, looking at respect or the lack of or like feeling acknowledged, there's not so much difference really, because it really all is the same. It is, we want to be acknowledged for who we are, for what we have done. We want to be in love in that very moment. I feel that well, those were some of the thoughts that ran to my mind. I'm not sure if you have if you have looked at love from only from the romantic view, or if you have seen it also as something that really that surpasses even the perspective of just, you know, a romantic perspective.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Really, love isn't really romantic. Love is one thing. And if you just do this one thing, the effortless is effortless, and love is acceptance. If you accept your partner as is, it allows you to be love.
As you said, to be yourself, right? But that's exactly, so you have to accept yourself as being in love, and your partner as well, and everybody around you as well.
Well, you accept your partner as is, you know? So if you just look at this scenario, it's very easy. Who finds it easy to get upset with their family, but they find it easier not to get upset with friends? Yeah, is that the case? Yeah, the reason is we accept our friends, but we don't accept our family. We have more rules for family. They should do this, they should know better, they should be more courteous, they should be more friendly, they blah, blah, blah. Whereas with friends, we just accept them as they are, even though they have faults. So if you become acceptance, you become love. And then as you become love, everything changes. Your vibrational energy changes, how you show up changes, and it's magnificent. It's effortless, and beautiful things will come to you. People will come to you. It'll be a beautiful attraction.
So is that something you have to become? Is that something that you have not been before, or is that something that you actually always have been and that you're just recognizing or tapping into?
Well, I mean, honestly, I was an idiot when I was young. I had a very low sense of awareness. I was egotistical, you know, very righteous. But it comes from awareness. Awareness is the master discipline. Awareness gives you clarity. Clarity gives you focus. Focus gives you action. Action gives you results, which gives you momentum, which gives you everything. You cannot be in love. You cannot be joyous. You cannot be successful without awareness. So awareness is the key. When you're aware that you're not being loving, when you're aware you're not being accepting, it's the moment that you can let that go. So it's a constant dynamic, but it just gets easier and easier.
So it's an awareness of not being in the flow. It's an awareness of not having been aware of something that was there potentially before.
It's an awareness of not being, and it's awareness of being. So you can be aware of being aware. You can be aware of not being aware. You can aware of being powerful, or you can be aware of not being powerful. So it's an equilibrium. That's pretty cool. I just said some amazing stuff I've never said before.
That's what Raising Excellence is all about. Nice.
You mentioned something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that is expectations. And what would you recommend for people? Because I think primarily most people get expectations from maybe the media and the TV shows and all those kinds of things, but also what they see or what they hear. What would you recommend in regard to people addressing their expectations and potentially putting them in their proper place?
Yeah. So it's important that they realize one thing. The more expectations you have in life, the more upsets you're going to get. Now, think about that for a moment. The more expectations you have in life, the more upsets you'll have in life. It's a direct correlation. So when we have an expectation, it can be the smallest of things. You know, I expected the delivery man to come at 8 p.m., but he didn't. I expected the handyman to have done his work by 4 p.m. He didn't do it. I expected my child to be home, but she's not. There's so many expectations we have, and expectations are revolving around attachments. How attached are you to that expectation? How attached are you to that result? And the awareness will give you that freedom to be, the freedom to let go. And ask yourself, what is one expectation I could let go of? What's the benefit of that? And how would that impact my life? And that gives you knowledge, it gives you power, and it gives you an ability to make a decision, because a lot of people are on autopilot. They just can't make those decisions because they're just running, on autopilot.
And expectations is something that we are bombarded with, that we are manipulated to have a lot, because that's how you can take control over somebody else, by creating expectations artificially in other people. So you basically control their behavior.
Absolutely. And do you know when expectations start? Question to you guys. When does it start?
When you're born and you expect to get fed and watered and change the diaper.
No.
When you find contentment.
No. Expectations start at the age of about 5 or 6.
Explain.
So, do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay. So you have kids. So when your child was born, what did that child expect from you? Nothing.
It just was.
Nothing. If you didn't feed it, it'll cry, but it wasn't expecting anything from you. What did you expect from that child? Nothing. Yeah? The child would poop and you'd think, good job. It would be sick over you. You wouldn't complain. But then you send it to school and the child is told to sit down and shut up. All of a sudden, the world changes and you are expecting the child to behave in a certain manner. You're expecting them to perform. So that suddenly the child thinks, hang on a minute, I have to do something in order to get my parents' love. I have to do something at school to be loved and liked. It's a big job. That's, in my opinion, that's when expectations start. And it causes a big, big, big issue because it's like traumatizing. It's PTSD.
So it's conditional love.
It's not a matter of conditional love. It's transactional. It becomes transactional. That's where the big shift is. It's a big dynamic shift.
So I'm not exactly sure how this ties in, but it made me think of it about like infants and under a certain age not really having any expectations. Nope, it just went out the window. Sorry.
There you go. Another intervention.
It was about how like children under a certain age, when they are acting out, that action to me sounds like they expect to get some, like they're doing it for a reason. So there has to be some sort of like expectation, but I don't think it's as structured of an expectation as when they get to like 5 and 6 years old and you start expecting them to do certain things. Because you expect, like, if your child hasn't, if your infant hasn't pooped and it's like now a week old, you had an expectation there. You had an expectation that this child is going to, poop, or it's going to get sick on you. And when those things don't happen, it's like, oh, I'm really worried. But the more important part about this was it's really common for children who don't have the ideal parents, who aren't meeting all of the needs. These children will realize this and adjust their behavior to get what they need. So if screaming at the top of your lungs causes abuse or neglect, you will find another way, like, to get the thing that you need. And so that transactional attachment for love can actually happen much earlier than 5 years old. But I do agree that there's a different set of expectations. And it's almost like these children they're never given a guide or a manual of like, okay, when you turn 5, we're going to start expecting this, this, and this. And we're going to help you work like towards it. Like, it's just all of a sudden you're expected to do this. It's the same thing with 18-year-olds when they're like, we're going to treat you like a child up until the day you turn 18. And now that you're 18, you're expected to be an adult, but we've never taught you really how to be an adult because we've treated you like a child and we've expected child like mentalities from you this entire time.
I would make
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely.
I would make a difference between, maybe we can call it a natural exchange of energy and the conditioned transaction of energy, because there's an exchange always, there's a give and take always in nature, as I perceive it. And that is important to have flow, because to have flow between 2 points, there has to be an exchange of energies, like electricity, like between the plus and minus poles, there has to be an exchange of energy, a transfer. And I think in every interaction this naturally occurs. But I feel where it's a problem is when it becomes conditioned, and when it's not in harmony with the natural flow of things. And when there's maybe an agenda and hidden, or maybe an open agenda with it, where expectation also comes in, as you mentioned before.
Will said something very beautiful, and she's absolutely right. So this is what happens. As human beings, we do everything for one reason, and it's for the feeling it gives us. Okay, so a child will only do whatever it thinks it needs to do. So if you look at when a child is born, and you look at, say, a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month-old baby, what are they holding in their hands?
Toys?
It's not a toy. It's an iPad. Or a phone, or some electronic device. Okay? So the child is told to be constantly entertained. You'll start noticing this. So when you take away the iPad, they want to be entertained. They can't entertain themselves. When I was a kid, or when my kids were kids, we would buy toys. They would take the toys and play with the box. So we started just getting the boxes, not cheaper. Really, they would play with the boxes. And we had a golden rule, no toys with batteries. And we would buy toys that they could both play with, which were not non-electronic. So what happens is the child is taught to always be entertained. And when they're not entertained, they get bored. And when they get bored, they get ratty. We never had tantrums with our kids. We never had adolescent behavior with our kids, because what the biggest mistake parents make, apart from having kids, is this: they do not get into the world of the child. They expect the child to come to their world. And Will and Dennis said the right thing. When the child is 18, all of a sudden, they're not all of a sudden adults. They've been adults for ages, but we've never treated them that way. So really, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's the communication, it's understanding. And it's also teaching them, say, look, honey, this isn't the right behavior. How could we do this differently? What is it you really want? How can I help you get what you want? My kids would say, Dad, I'm bored. I said, no, honey, it's not that you're bored. It's that you're boring. They didn't like it at first, but you have to be telling them the truth. So who said they had kids here?
Just Dennis. What my mom used to say is that intelligent people are never bored. If I ever said you're bored, she'd be like, intelligent people are never bored. What does that mean about you? And she'd look concerned.
That's beautiful.
So when other children were bored in elementary school, I was horrified. I was like, oh no, those are the stupid ones. Anyway, Dennis.
I love it. Dennis, how old are your kids?
3 and 7.
Okay. So what do you think is the greatest gift you can give your kids?
Time, love, attention.
Okay. In my opinion, that's not the greatest gift. Okay. This is my opinion only. I think the greatest gift you can give your kids is this: give them the ability to handle life by throwing adversity at them constantly that they can reasonably handle. See, a lot of parents today are trying to prevent their kids from going through adversity. So the kids become entitled. They don't know how to handle things. So you have to throw adversity at your kids.
There's no way I spend time with my kids without throwing adversity at them.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
I like that you said that they can reasonably handle, because I see both sides of the spectrum. We call it, in our house, we call them bulldozer parents, where they just bulldoze the area. Nothing's there to hurt their kid. They got it all taken care of, and the kids don't know how to interact because they've had everything literally bulldozed for them their entire lives. And I feel a lot of sympathy for those kids, because they must be really confused, really out of touch, and they're probably very unhappy because they can't make social connections like other kids. But then there's also kids who endure a lot of, and it's not just adversity, but it's actually like neglect and abuse and shit that they should never have to deal with as a child. And then because of this, children have this mentality that they should, I can't tell you how many of my clients, we all kind of take responsibility for the abuse and the shit that happened because we weren't big enough, we weren't strong enough to handle it. And so I love that you made it very clear that like that they can reasonably handle adversity, that they can reasonably handle is totally different than abuse or not, having shit thrown at you that you can't handle and expected to handle it, because then you have no one to talk to because you feel like you are less than.
And it's coming from a place of love and calculated risk reward. So when Richard Branson was 5, he was put in the middle of a field and told to get home. I wanted to do the same with my kid. My wife said, "No, you're not doing that," and she was right. Because my risk calculation was different to hers, but she was right. But we did something similar, which reduced the risk, and we were comfortable with, which gave them the ability to handle other situations that arose because of that situation.
Because
so sorry, go ahead, Willow.
I was just gonna say, like, when children are encountering a situation that they don't know how to handle, they get really scared, and then when they turn to the person who's supposed to calm them down to get them back into the equilibrium to be able to handle it, they just spend a lot of time developing coping mechanisms so that they can deal with the panic or the traumatizing situations instead of learning how to actually handle the situation. So it teaches them how to handle traumatic situations, instead.
Yeah, and you're building it up slowly, so there's not a massive jump in that ability to do that. So Dennis, your kids, 7 year. What? Give me an example of something that you could give them as a adversity.
Just today, I was out with friends. We went into the woods, and they're climbers, so they had a bunch of equipment, and they brought their kids. So we made them climb up. We made them climb like some, what do you say, like boulders. Let them boulder climbing, basically.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you're giving your gifts the greatest.
Wait, Luca too?
No, yeah, he alone. And Emma, actually, she's in a camp right now. So I gave her the adversity of being on her own for a full day with like a crowd of, I think, 12 other children who were all older than her, and only having to being able to speak English, and being around horses, which was her dream anyway. So she ride a horse for the first time in her life today, and she was away from mommy and daddy and her brother the whole day. And yeah, so
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And you get to win; they win.
So he had this 3-year-old climb boulders in the park. Is that what it is?
You know what that reminds me
of? In the woods,
yeah.
In the woods.
It reminds me of the David Attenborough nature shows, where you see the mother, bird or whatever it is. They just leave the nest, and all the they're crossing a road, or they're crossing a river, or they're about to do something like, I've never done this before. And the mother, I never understood why the mother didn't stay around and coax them into it. They just took off, and they're like, follow or don't. And it used to get to me, but now I understand, like, sometimes you do have to put adversity and be like, you gotta try.
You don't try, you do.
In the words of Yoda.
Absolutely.
There is no try.
No, absolutely.
What were some of the examples you did? You have a son or daughter? Or you have 7
Yeah, my son was 9 and my daughter was 7. So we took them into central London and we told them to get home. That was 20 years ago. We haven't seen them since. So if you see them, so we were 10 feet behind them. We were 10 feet behind them. Say, look, do not look at us, do not contact us, do not ask for help unless it's life and death. But we coach them, say, look, you know, make sure that you don't go to the ends of the tube, the metro. You're in the middle, you're near an exit. Never look anyone in the eye, hold each other's hands, make sure that, you know, you're communicating, keep a high level of awareness, watch out for where the guards are. So that way, you know, and look for the map, and this is what you need to look for. So we prep them. So the next time, okay, we're going to make it a little bit harder. We're going in a car this time. I want you to direct us back. And if you make a mistake, it's fine. If you make a mistake, this is what you should do. Try and go back to a place that you know, and then do a different route. Go back to a place, you know, so it gives them that ability. So when my son was 18, we sent him around the world by himself. When my daughter was 18, she went around the world by herself. So one day she called me from Australia saying, Dad, I'm coming to China tomorrow. I said, great. She said, Dad, I have nowhere to stay. I said, great. How are you going to handle that? And she did. It builds your muscle, it builds their muscle, it stops you enabling them and you're giving them the gift. It's a beautiful thing.
How did she handle
such a
it?
Beautiful thing.
What did she do?
Yes, she just handled it. She got onto booking.com and booked a hotel. You know, she called me and said, Dad, I'm going to book this hotel. But then I guided her, say, honey, look, you know, what is the outcome you want from this trip? She said, Dad, I want to go sightseeing. I said, great. Now, if you want to go sightseeing, you don't want to be traveling this distance. She said, but Dad, the other hotels are more expensive. I said, I understand that, but what's the outcome? Work on the outcome first, not on the money. Outcome first. What do you need to do to get the outcome? And honey, you're always going to remember this trip. For the sake of $5 or $10, don't worry about it.
Nice.
So it's constant coaching too.
But it would take the same amount of money to get from the outskirts into the city as she would have saved anyway.
And safety.
And hours. And
yeah,
safety.
Safety. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah, great thinking.
I'm just reminded of, like, I got married when I was 20, and like 2-3 months later, I flew to South Korea. Just moved to South Korea where my husband was stationed, and it scared the living shit out of me. I was terrified. The first day, I was staying with a friend, and we had an apartment in the same building. I just had to go pick up the keys and do this. And the poor lady, I think she was a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older than me at the time. Actually, I think she was a little bit older than me at the time. She was giving me the instructions. She was like, okay, take a cab down to da-da-da, and, you know, ask for this realty company, you know, walk over here, and then you'll get the keys. You're going to say this, and then you're going to get back in the cab, and you're going to say this, and you're going to bring it in. And I just looked at her with deer in the headlights look. And she, like, her motherly instincts just kicked in, and she was like, would you like me to go with you this time and show you how this is done? And I said, please do. And so she went with me and she showed me how it was done, and I paid very close attention, because I was like, I cannot ask this lady to go with me to the realtor every single time. I'm gonna have to figure this out. But I couldn't have done it without her. She was just so kind, and she was like, all right, this is how you do this. And then she, like, let me on my own, and I was like, thank you for being my, like, surrogate mother in a foreign country, because I have no clue what I'm doing. I was terrified. I don't even know how I got the courage. I think just because my husband was there, and I was like, I have to go be with my husband.
You have to do it. You've got to do it. You know, and this is the great thing about adversity. When it hits you, you've got a choice. You've got to do it or you don't do it. If Will was given a choice, hey, do you want to do that? And she said, no, I'm not going to do that. But it made her grow. And she's got a great story now. She has a story for the rest of her life.
Well, she lived in Korea for how long? Was it years, right?
A year. Just
A year?
1
Yeah.
year.
That's
Cool.
still really cool.
What do you feel about? Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
All right. When it comes to failure, and maybe this is better in regard to children, but I think probably a lot of adults these days have a real fear of failure. What would you recommend in regard to your children addressing failure and being okay with it, or even adults for that matter?
It's really very simple. Fail forward.
Fail forward, fail often.
Yep.
We've heard that
You know,
somewhere, haven't we, guys?
I wanted to ask you a question because it expands on what Mike was saying about how there is a fear. There is a fear of failure, and I think this often comes from extra external punishments and consequences that are not actually there. So how do you comfort those who they're so terrified of failing that they kind of won't do it and you have to talk someone out of that panic. You have to be like, it's okay to fail. This is okay. You're going to be fine. People have to fail numerous times, and this is not a bad thing. How does that conversation go? How do you address that fear in a compassionate, loving way?
Okay. So it's a great question. Parents, if you listen to what parents say to their kids, you'll be shocked. For example, don't do that. You'll fall. You'll hurt yourself. It's too dangerous. It's too risky. Take it easy. Be careful. I've seen parents say that in like 10 or 20 times in an hour. So you have to, again, this is where when you throw the adversity at them, they know that they don't always succeed. They know it's okay. They know that they can handle it. And if you're not used to doing that, all you have to do is celebrate the little successes. Honey, that was really good. Well done. Yeah. Okay, why don't we try it again? It's okay.
Maybe
honey,
also.
So, honey, let me explain something to you. You're 5 years old, okay? So when you were 18 months, you tried to walk, but you didn't. You failed so many times, but you made it because you were consistent and you wouldn't say no. You kept going. And then you tried to talk and you failed so many times. Now I can't stop you. So honey, don't worry. I got you. I believe in you. You're bigger than this. Put your mind to saying yes. Put your mind to being a success. It'll happen for you. Yeah? And it's constant coaching, constant guiding.
So,
for example, if your kid spills something, don't get upset. They say, look, here, you spill it, I'll spill it. A lot of parents go ballistic and they're teaching them, oh, I've got to be careful. No, say, don't worry about it. This isn't important. The important stuff is relationships and health. The other stuff doesn't matter. You break something, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
So that's something that we can think about as adults too, like, being like the way we speak to ourselves, because our time with our parents is past, up till 20, maybe your parents take care of you, but afterwards it's your own parent, your own caretaker. That looks really good, by the way.
Celery juice.
Nice. And so how do we talk to ourselves when we're adults to like maybe heal some of the trauma that we had in childhood?
The number one thing as adults is forgiveness. We need to forgive ourselves because we beat ourselves up. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. There's something wrong with me. I don't belong. Nobody loves me. I'm unlovable. I'm not a success. There's all of that stuff. So we need to let that go. Forgive ourselves, and it's okay. It's okay. It's a big thing. Really, it's a big thing. So another way to look at this is this. It's Agnieszka, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Agnieszka.
Okay, so imagine that's $100 note.
Okay.
How much is it worth?
Some people say it's $100.
It's $100, yeah. All right. if you say to this note, you're stupid, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not lovable, how much is it worth?
Still $100.
Yeah. So imagine you are that $100 note. No matter what anyone says to you, no matter what happens to you, your value never changes. Okay? So you are worth $100, correct?
What if I make a
For
mistake
example.
and lose a corner?
Hold on. But you're actually worth a lot more than $100. Okay? I'll explain to you. This $100, if I give you this $100 for $100 worth of goods, you can give this same $100 to Will, who can buy another $100 worth of goods from Michael, who can buy another $100 worth of stuff from Dennis. So this $100 is buying stuff all the time. You are this $100 note, so you're producing value every time you meet someone. And if you have a corner missing, it doesn't matter. You're still priceless. We need to teach our children this. That no matter what happens.
I'm thinking of the common issue that a child's default response is, if they're not under a certain age, if they're not receiving, if their needs are not being met and they're not receiving the care that they should, because it is essential for your survival to create a bond with your caretaker, the children don't know how to say, maybe my caretaker has PTSD. Maybe the sound of my screaming really upsets them and it makes them unable to care for me. And that's okay. They can't think that. If they think there's something wrong with their caretaker and their caretaker is not able to take care of them, they lose that bond and they miss out on a very, very essential part of the growing up. So one of the biggest things is forgiveness for yourself, but also, like, you have to realize that that is a coping mechanism. And you do not, being cared for as an infant doesn't come with conditions. You don't get cared for because you're good enough. You don't get cared for because you're perfect or you're the most lovable or you're just a good person. Like, children can often learn that it comes with conditions. Like, I'm not getting the care that I need because I am not good enough. And understanding that that is a coping mechanism to keep you alive allows you the environment to forgive yourself for that, because you can't forgive yourself until you understand what you've done.
But you know, when you throw adversity at the children, they become more independent, and then they can take control of their lives. If you see kids in India, 2-3-year-olds crossing a main highway by themselves because they have the ability to be streetwise and to cope and to be independent through massive adversity. And if you compare, you know, a 5-year-old in India and a 5-year-old in USA and a 5-year-old in Mexico, it's totally different. And, you know, that's the gift we can give our kids. But you see, the problem is this: women normally use the child as a source of love, constant love, because they feel and they know the chances of my husband leaving me or this separation is over 50%. But with the child, it's a constant source of love. So they use that as a mechanism.
That happens a lot with young women. And sometimes with young men too, but it's more correlated to, I want to have a wife and I want to have a baby with this wife, and so that my family is secure, instead of it just being just the child. But yeah, I think it's really sad. There's plenty of women who are lacking true love, like unconditional, you are just a person and you deserve to be loved. And they feel it because they know that a child is going to love them. You can't, no matter what your parents do, a part of you will always love them, no matter what. And I have a really strenuous relationship with my biological father. I don't even call him my dad anymore. I don't want anything to do with him, but a part of me will always love that person. And I think that it can become an addiction where you can become addicted to searching desperately for love. And I think that damages a lot of loving relationships because desperation has no place in a loving relationship.
Okay. Can I do an intervention here?
Yes.
Okay. Do you mind?
No. If
Okay.
I don't want to answer a question, I'll just say I don't want to answer a question. No worries.
Okay. I love that. So is your mum still alive?
She is.
You love your mum?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love your mum?
My first reaction was a 10, and then I wanted to go to like a 9 or an 8 because I mean I have some issues, but it doesn't feel like I love her any less. It just means that I have issues with her. So it gets kind of fuzzy and confusing her out there.
No, it's fine. 9 is fine. You know, so when someone says 10 to me, I don't believe them. Okay. So do you love your husband?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have quite a few actually.
And do you love them?
All of them.
Okay. So who gave you your mother?
My grandmother. Well, actually, not my grandfather, because my mom was adopted. So her mother and father, or biological mother and father.
No.
I guess it would be him, wouldn't it? Yeah, I didn't like that. my whole brain was like, damn it. That is true. That is true. And it is a part of me. And it's also a part of me that I've struggled really hard to accept. I always hated it when they were like, man, you have his toes, or man, you have his legs, or you have his nose, or you walk like him, you talk like him. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm related. Like, he literally made me, like him and my mom.
Okay. If he didn't make you the way you were, you would never have met your husband.
That is true.
So he gave you your mum, he gave you your husband, he gave you all your brothers and sisters.
Maybe not all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say not all of them, because some of them are steps, some of them are half.
But you wouldn't be related to them.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have this unique understanding of my life and the things that I am skilled at to help other people.
I was going to say, what about your job?
Yeah. That's a tough one for me because it's really hard to say, thank you for putting me through so much trauma that I understand every detail of it and now I can help other people. It feels spiteful. Like I can feel my face being like, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I would have much rather had like a simple life, but I don't know that. I probably would have loved that version of myself just as much as I love this version, but I don't have to like the circumstances or feel like they are like they had to happen, you know, kind of thing. Like I can be okay with it without accepting that it is not okay.
So the way to look at this is this, you know, we'll keep it very simple. When you think of your father, all you have to do is think of the fact that he gave you your mum, who you love so much, and he gave you your husband, who you love so much. That's it. You don't have to go any deeper than that. And it gives you a freedom to be, and it lets go some of the anger and frustration. And when you live in a world of gratitude, it gives you freedom.
So why is it so hurtful when adult children are rejected by the parents? Like, you know, my father has no time for me, and our last conversation after several years, that's the 27 seconds. So can you brainwash me of that?
Yeah. So he's not rejecting you.
Okay.
No one can reject you.
Explain.
It's you. No one can reject you. Okay, try and reject me.
I can't reject you. You're here out of your own will.
We can kick you out of the live stream.
No, please don't.
We can hang up on you.
You're not rejecting me. You're missing out.
That's true. we wouldn't do
You
it.
know, yeah. Whether you do it or not makes no difference to me. You're attached to the outcome. You have an expectation.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he gave you life. That's it. That's all you need to focus on.
That's why it's so unsatisfying when you block someone, or you get that last jab in, and then they say something else, and you're like, damn it, why didn't you just submit? Ugh.
I like to go into self-responsibility for all of that too. It's like, what if you are responsible for having gotten that father, that mother, that boyfriend, that husband, whatever it is? What if you, on a level that you maybe not conscious or aware of right now, actually are responsible for each and everything that happens at every moment in your life, and look at it from that perspective? Then it's very difficult, if you're into that, in that awareness, to be angry or to have any expectations at anyone, really, because it's just you. So then it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why would I put myself through that? Why would I give myself, that experience? And then it's already a different perspective.
See, you have two choices, Agnieszka and Will. You have two choices. You can be right, or you can be happy. Choose. That's it. Sometimes you want to be right.
I am
but
right.
It
Damn
takes away
it.
your happiness.
What
I
if
am right.
being right makes you happy?
Not in this instance, because I'm angry, right? Right.
I think that actually leads me into, it was the last question that I had of the ones that I typed out, but it's not the last question. I was going to ask, how does emotional self-regulation affect your loving relationships?
What does that mean?
Like, for instance, sometimes both parties are needing help. Like, in my case, I deal with triggers. I deal with legitimate being triggered and a neural pathway to an emotional flashback. And there are some times where I realize that I am taking too much time. Like, I'm emotionally triggered every single day when my husband comes home. When does he, sometimes I have to take a step back and be like, you know what? Maybe he's upset about his day. Maybe I have to regulate myself. I have to take care of myself and take care of my own emotions. Instead of trying to reach out and connect, I need to be there for that person. And I know this happens often with children because they are not your partner. They're not who you can go talk to about your shitty day or what someone said or how you feel, or your mom didn't, call you back and you're upset about it. Like, that's the things you talk about with your spouse. And often people try to talk about this stuff with their children. And then when their children don't understand, or they offer help in an unhelpful way because they're children, they get frustrated because they're not feeling heard. So I think that emotional self-regulation is really important when you're dealing with in a relationship. You have to know when to reach out, when you need help, and when you can actually keep it together and help them so that they can be in a place to help you.
Okay. So what's the trigger when he comes home? What happens?
I don't know.
If you did know, what would it be?
I've correlated it to, I used to get really anxious when my father would come home, because that would always mean that there was more increased chance of getting in trouble. I had to be much more clear and sharper with my thoughts. I could not break down. I had a different set of rules and a role that I had to play. And I've actually, I've mentioned that to my husband before, where I'm like, I didn't expect you to come home, and then all of a sudden I see your car in the driveway, and I realize you're home, and my first reaction is, even though I don't need to go to the bathroom, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I realized that I was hiding, and I was like, why am I hiding? Why am I hiding from my husband? Like, I want to go see him. And so I have had to acknowledge that my own triggers, if I don't acknowledge where they're coming from and I take them out on someone else, it makes them feel like they're responsible for triggering me. Like, they put the trigger there in the first place, and that's not true.
Okay. So here, this is very practical. When you see his car, when you know he's at home, you make it mean something. You make it mean that, oh, something bad is going to happen. Okay? Reverse that. What does your husband do? He's in the military?
He was. Now he does odd jobs here and there, maintenance stuff.
Okay, so he comes home. What's a positive memory, a positive feeling that you could create?
The thing that comes to mind is being there when he opens the door and smiling at him and then seeing him smile back at me. It's like, oh, you're happy to see me. Cool. Yay.
Yeah. So you could correlate with him being home to be extra safe, extra secure, more intimacy.
And you know, like I love that you put that, because subconsciously, I do feel that way. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to show or go through my own triggers. Like I wouldn't be dealing with the stuff as much, because before it wasn't safe to react to my own. I couldn't react. I had to shut everything down and just exist within this like tiny little box. So that makes sense to me, where it's like I wouldn't be going through these things, I wouldn't be having these triggers and be in a safe place to do this and express it with someone else unless I had a safe place to do that. So I really like that. That's a wonderful tactic.
Yeah. Good. What's the first thing he says when he gets home?
Hey, how was your day? You know.
So change it to say, honey, when you say this to your husband, when you get home, I want you to say these words. Whatever lights you up.
I'm home. You're safe now. Look at that, make you smile.
Whatever it is, you know, whatever gets you here will create a massive emotional win for you. Instead of running to the toilet, you run to him.
Yeah.
And imagine how he would feel if you ran to him.
Probably a lot more respected.
Yes. It's a win-win, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Good
Very
stuff.
nice.
Good coaching. Yeah.
I always admire someone who you ask them a very specific question and you expect to have like a specific kind of answer, and instead by the end of it you realize that you just got coached.
What?
I asked
And you're like,
permission.
What gave you the way? If you did know, what would it be?
because I employ that tactic too, and it's very effective. Where you're just like, oh, you think we're gonna have a conversation? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
By the way, do we have any comments from any of our?
Shambhavi said hello. That's about it. Everybody's just listening like this.
Wow.
Hi, Shambhavi.
There's no one listening. I know that.
Oh no, there were more people at the beginning, but there's still a bunch of people listening.
Okay,
But
good.
I don't know why. Maybe they're intimidated by you. What do you think?
They can't see me.
All right, I've got a question. When it comes to needs not being met versus needs being met, and the emotional state that people generally tend to be in those states. So David Hawkins had a map of consciousness where he suggests that goes from like 0 to 1,000, and in the middle is I think courage. We're at about 200, and above that is really kind of a higher consciousness existence, and below that is the anger and the fear and all that. And generally the people that are in emotional state that's below 200 are lacking the ability to meet their own needs, versus people that are above that generally have their needs met. Is it really that simple? Is it just the emotional state that people allow themselves to be in that kind of results in them not being able to meet their own needs or have their needs met?
Yeah, it's really very simple. You know, as human beings, we do everything for a feeling. Okay? So imagine you could create any feeling, which you can. What would that give you? It would give you freedom. It would let you run life instead of life running you. And the secret is awareness. You know, awareness of who you're being, who you're not being. Awareness of how you're showing up, how you're not showing up. And there is a formula for happiness, which is happiness is equal to G cubed. The first G is you have to give your time, your energy, your love, your commitment, your joy, your gift. The second G is you have to be grateful for what you have. And the third G is you have to grow emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. That's all you have to look at. Which of those three G's is below the rest? Work on the lowest G. Work on the lowest G. Work on the lowest G. It's simple. You know, I don't really like getting too technical because that's what people do. It's very simple. You're either giving, growing, or grateful. If you're not doing any of those three at any given time, you're not going to be happy. You know, and it'll take you 10 seconds to find out what your lowest G is. You can all do it now. You know, Dennis, Michael, Will, Agnieszka, what's your lowest G right now?
I don't know.
What were the options again?
Give, grow, or gratitude.
Gratitude.
I think we're pretty high on all of them. I don't know which one.
Then it's great. So when you're upset, one of them drops down significantly. That's the one you need to work on.
Yeah, the give for me.
You're a giver.
Yeah, but
okay.
that's the one that goes away if I'm upset. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just take care of me.
Okay, that's not a bad thing. So who's a good giver but a bad taker?
Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dennis, so you're a bad taker, yeah?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So imagine you have $10 million in your bank account, okay?
Mm.
I would smile a little bit more than that. I'm not giving you 10 million, but imagine you did. And every day you have to give exactly $1 million away. How long could you do that for?
10 days.
10 days. But imagine someone deposits over $1 million a day in your bank account. How long could you give exactly $1 million a day away for?
Hold a second. Can you repeat the question? When somebody puts 1 million per day on it?
At least $1 million into the bank account every day. How long can you give away $1 million?
Yeah, every day.
Forever.
Yeah.
So are you a taker of that $1 million deposit, or are you a receiver?
He's trying to translate into German and back into English in his head right now.
Well,
are you receiving it? Are you receiving it or taking it?
Receiving.
I'm receiving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. I receive it. Yeah. It's like a. Mm-hmm.
So when you say yes to the receive, you can give even more. You're not taking. So when someone is giving to you and you say no, you're denying them the gift of giving. Just as if you wanted to give to someone else and they say no to you, you'd be upset. You're not taking, my friend, you're receiving. And when you receive, you can give even more.
I think that what went through Dennis's head was, well, if somebody didn't want to take something from me, who would be upset? Would it be me or would it be somebody else? Who is the one who's being upset right now?
I feel about that with everything, really. You know, whether it's any physical things or even, you know, this body or life as such. You know, there's something that, you know. So it's like it has been in permaculture, you say you're like a steward of the land, right? So it's not something you own, but we have been given it like for a certain amount of time. We don't even know for how long. So if you know how to take care of it well, then we pass it on eventually. And
that's all you're doing. You're receiving to give. You're not taking anything.
Wanted to take a moment because Roz commented and said she was listening, and I am so happy that she is listening because she's awesome.
We love Roz. Yay, Roz.
Hey, Roz.
Roz is in She's in Australia. We did a whole show with her. She was a guest on Raising Excellence for the Art of Loving Relationships a few weeks ago. We talked about her and her son's relationship. So she's very cool. Very cool. We love her. Roz.
All right, I guess I got another question in regard to working relationships. How, like in circumstances where people are in kind of a situation in which people are telling them what to do, and they don't necessarily like that, but what would be a good way to go about approaching that situation, relationship, in a way that would be more productive?
So a couple are working together, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. It's around communication. So it's important that you communicate. Say, for example, honey, look, if you want me to do something, please talk to me in this tone and in this way. And if there's something that is a little bit controversial, talk to me privately. Please don't talk to me in front of the other group. And if there's something you want me to do, talk to me this way, or do this, so that it's clear, perfectly clear what your role is, what my role is, what I'm expected to do, what you're expected to do. And if you're not sure, let's talk privately. It doesn't look good if we have this conversation in front of everybody else. Yeah. So it's really communicating a form of communication that works for both people in a particular way, which can actually be used when you get home too.
I have a question. It's a complex question, but I really want to ask it. So this is not about me. It's asking for a friend.
Of course.
No, but for real this time.
It always is.
We all know what that means, Agnieszka.
No, as soon as I ask, you guys will know that I'm actually telling the truth. So
of course.
Say there is a home care worker that works for you, your family, takes care of your family for a long time, and this person is really good, right? And then after several months of you thinking that this person, well, maybe they don't do a job as well as possible, but they're really good, so they're really nice, so I'm going to keep them around, right? And then suddenly this person starts saying, you're not speaking to me nicely, you're rude, I don't like the way you talk, and nothing's changed. You don't see that anything's changed, right? You still speak the way you normally speak to everybody, but suddenly this person's coming up with all these stories about how you're rude, how this and that, And so what does the person do? Do you remove the healthcare worker? How do you fix that relationship? What can you do about that? Because, there is a rift, right? So there was like a good working relationship. This person's family was taken care of by this other worker, and now there is strife.
Okay, so let's role play. You be the person who's upset, and I'll be the other person.
All right. Well, I don't like the way you talk to me. I think you're rude. And I'm 50 years old. So how dare you speak to me that way?
I see that you're upset. And I acknowledge that. Thank you. May I ask you a question?
I suppose.
What did I do to upset you?
Well, the way you spoke to me just now, I don't need to be spoken to that way. I know I might make mistakes, but that does not justify you speaking to me like that.
You're totally right. I apologize. And I want to thank you for looking after someone that I really care and love. My son. Thank you for looking after my son. There is no one I would trust more than you to look after him.
This is building bridges. Wow. Cool. Okay, so, but I'm still upset. I'm still upset. No, this is a reference to something else for the lady that this is for. But I'm still upset. I still want you to be. How are you going to respect me better? I want to be respected.
Okay. So tell me exactly what you would like me to say in future.
When I make a mistake, I don't want you to talk about it. I just want to make mistakes, and I want you to just like suck it up.
Okay. That works for me.
What? You mean I can just make a mistake and you're not going to say anything?
Well, I believe in your professionalism. I believe in your integrity. And I trust you.
How do you say I trust you to somebody who's been screwing up?
Well, the thing is, you have to make that choice then. If they've been screwing up, do you really want them in your house?
But then I'm going to have this, I'm switching the roles now for the lady, right? Then I'm going to have this problem, this person, I'm going to have this reputation of being a mean person.
Who's more important? I would do anything for my son. I want the best for my son. If I'm mean, I don't care. He's my son. He gets the best. They can think whatever they like about me. He's my son. He deserves the best. He's going to get the best.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because then I'm like, well, how am I going to get another home care worker who is just as good? And maybe she's not that bad. And maybe she's screwing up just like 3 times a week. But she could be screwing up 7 times a week,
But if there's one who is like even better than her, you can't get her because you don't get rid of that one.
Did you hear that, Roz? Yeah.
See, sometimes when you say no to someone, you're saying yes to someone else. So when you're saying no to an abuser, you're saying yes to a beautiful soul.
So she's gonna comment in a minute here. She said,
"Holy
she
crap!
did.
I just looked over and there's like 8 comments from Roz." She says, "Thanks, this is great. Thanks for asking my question, Michael. I love you guys. Thanks. Interesting, and I did."
Thank you. There's a thank you now.
Okay.
Well, we the title of the show is "What is your happiness score?" and we've just been totally off on some conversation.
So, Anil, do you want to come back in a couple of weeks when we continue this conversation and we talk about the happiness score? Because this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I loved asking you all these questions. Oh, and Roz says it's been very helpful. So I'm glad we did a good thing.
I said to Michael, if you invite me, I'll come. So, it's the same. I'm on a mission to serve people. So I love this stuff. And happy, maybe a bottle of tequila along with the 10 Bitcoin you promised me.
And it's adding up, but I guess I can go with it.
Those prices are getting steeper and steeper, man.
Shambhavi says goodness always prevails. And I think that is so right. We love Shambhavi. So.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you're providing for people, so that if they want to get in a hold of you, I know you're doing a relationship group on Facebook. What is that about, Anil?
Really, again, we talk about what we've been talking about. I do interventions. Do you have the link? It's relationships. It's all on the Facebook group. I really want to build a community where people can ask me questions about parenting, relationships. I do it at the moment. I'm going to be doing a Zoom call every week, live Zoom call, where people come in with their issues, questions, concerns, uncertainties, and I'll answer them. If you could put that Facebook group link in, it's free. There's no charge. People pay thousands of dollars to speak to me. There are 2 types of people: ones that make you happy when you enter the room, ones that make you happy when you leave the room. Hopefully, I'm the one that makes you happy when I enter the room.
What kind are we?
Huh?
What kind are we? When you leave this room, are you going to be happy?
You shouldn't ask questions like that.
Well, I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Are you going to be relieved, or are you going to miss us and want to come back soon?
You muted yourself.
You muted yourself.
Yes, How convenient.
The subconscious works in mysterious ways. Sir.
I don't think that was a subconscious there.
Yeah, so please join the relation. You're all invited, and whatever comes up, and I'll be posting content and resources there. And if you want to find out how happy you are, go to myhappytest.com. You'll get a score. You'll get detailed breakdowns of areas of your life you need to work on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very
Thank you so
good,
much,
very good.
Anil. We really enjoyed having you here.
No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
We're gonna miss you when you're gone.
So just to wrap things up, thank you, Anil. Thank you for being such a tremendous guest, and thank you all of our audience for watching and giving us your attention. We've got another show coming up on Wednesday. We're going to do some stuff with oil, from my understanding, essential oils.
Yep. Yeah, essential oils and basic an overview and how we use them. What the core recipes are that we use in our home.
Practical application.
Practical application. Well, it's more like an overview, so we'll touch on a bunch of different topics.
Okay, and we'll be welcoming Gabriel back as well, so he'll be coming back for another show. Okay, very good. And then so that's 5:30 Eastern time, 5:35 Eastern time,
or 2:30 Pacific. What's it in Germany?
11:30
p.m. Yes.
So
Mondays and Thursdays. No, Mondays and Wednesdays. Shit, Mondays and Wednesdays.
We need to get this together, man.
Thursdays in Indonesia.
no,
It used to be
that.
Thursdays. Anyway, thanks for everybody for watching, and we
Yeah,
really appreciate that. We're going to
Anytime.
play the
Thank
outro
you.
now.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye.